Ashley Adamson, Yogi Roth. It is Pac-12 Happy Hour presented by Dr. Pepper. The first college football playoff top 25 is out, and the smile on my friend's face says it all. The Oregon Ducks ranked fourth, Yogs, ahead of Ohio State, ahead of Cincinnati, Michigan, and Oklahoma. Your immediate reaction when you saw the Ducks pop up on that four line?
An exhale to a degree, because as you watch the rankings come, you could tell there was a value in head-to-head. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, let's see consistency, which has been the one thing that we've talked about all since the playoff began, years ago, 2014, was the inconsistency at times. We saw that across the board. I'm a huge fan of the 7 new members of the committee. I love where we're at right now after the first ranking.
Yeah, and this is number 4 is the highest ranking for a Pac-12 team in that very first initial poll. And if you take a look at the top 10, Georgia's first, no surprise there. Alabama number 2. I think maybe that surprised some people. At least Reese Davis on ESPN reacted with some surprise. Michigan State is 3rd. You mentioned the new committee members. That includes Rick George, the Colorado athletic director. What do you think when you look at the rankings as a whole? What did we learn about this year's committee based on what we know is a very small sample size with this initial ranking?
Well, I think that they really value the head-to-head. I think that's the number one thing. I think they also value what they see, right? Look at Oklahoma where they're ranked. Imagine if the script was flipped and there was an undefeated Pac-12 team and they were ranked number 8. We would be up in arms in that regard. But you look at how they've played and how they haven't played consistently all year. It's fair, right? Quarterback change, of course. So I like that. And then from an Oregon standpoint, I like that they took the facts into consideration, right? Obviously we're excited about that because of where we work. But I think when you look at their narrative, Ash, and their truth, and then the college football playoffs criteria where head-to-head is valued, and add in nobody's gone to Ohio State and won since 2017. They played the game at 9 a.m. Pacific. They were out multiple starters, including a lot of people that consider the best player in the nation. But it's not like little things. It's not like they just lost a corner or a receiver was out. They've gone through real stuff. Stanford game. We all know it, right? Joe Moorhead, the day of the game, goes to the hospital. I believe he's worth 3 decisions, and I think that game was 1 decision away from being made. They lose on an untimed down. The next week, a tight game against Cal. Joe Moorhead is not with the team all week. He's game planning from afar. So to me, they didn't just look at scores, right? They did the one thing that we beg people outside of the 14 people in the room to do late at night on Saturdays is watch the games. So to me, I tip my hat and say, I appreciate that. It really felt like they watched the game, took context of their job, the rules that have been laid out for a long time now for the committee, and applied it with the eye test. And that's why I think Oregon is ranked where they should be ranked right now in the first initial poll.
And I think, Yogi, you hit on something there when you think about context and sort of the bigger picture and what the committee is going to try to take in as they, there's so much information that they're trying to disseminate as they figure out 1 through 25 and as we get closer to December in that final ranking. But for Utah, obviously not ranked yet. And I think when you look at what this season, what has happened with this program this season, that it does matter. Context does matter. Now, 2 of their losses are to ranked teams, BYU and San Diego State. But what do you think the committee looks at with Utah? And do you think there's a chance that they'll be ranked depending on what happens the next 4 weeks?
I do. I think when you look at their schedule, you'd look at it and you would say, okay, they're playing a Stanford team on a short week on a Friday, and Stanford's quarterback is questionable as of Tuesday night, and Tanner McKee for the game. Arizona, of course, has struggled all year. Then they welcome Oregon at home. Clearly, there's a huge test there, and Colorado. So you're not looking at their schedule saying, wow, teams that are ranked or teams that have winning records or teams that have played extremely well consistently all season long. I think you're looking at Utah, and it's more about them versus who they play. It's looking at them and saying they did not have their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, who for me, with Drake London being out now, he's up for consideration for Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. You look at the running back, Tavion Thomas. He's been absolutely dominant. You can't tackle him. Just turn on the film. So to me, I see them watching. And then you add in everything that Utah's gone through off the field, and you don't want to imagine any of the teams associated with the college football playoff or this sport or any sport for that matter to ever have to deal with the loss of a teammate, let alone 2, in a 9-month span. So I think you look at the context and watch how they're playing. UCLA, that was a dominant win against a team. I picked them to win the South. So if they can continue to play to their standard, yes, I do think that there'll be chaos. Teams will lose that are ranked right now, and Utah will be able to find themselves into that dialogue. I would imagine, not being in the room, that they were right below my beloved Pitt Panthers, Ash. I got to imagine they were right there.
I'm glad you worked that one in. Knew,
Yeah.
knew you would. Okay, so if I'm an Oregon fan and I'm watching everything play out over the next 4 weeks, obviously the most important thing is that my team continues to win. But what are you rooting for? What do you want to happen? Give me a couple things if I'm a Duck fan, what I should be watching for.
Well, I think the biggest thing right now for the Duck fans is to, like us, take a collective breath because this was the team that was an overwhelming favorite to win the league. They were a favorite to go to the playoff. So it's not like it's a surprise, right? The Pac-12 has not been in the playoff for a while. We know the narrative around that. But coming into this specific 2021 season, they're the two-time defending champs. They've got the number one pick in the draft. I think you look at Noah Sewell, I think he's a top 10 pick next year if he decides to come out. Anthony Brown, he's been inconsistent, but he's always met the moment when it's been a competitive setting. They found it looks like a number two back after losing their starter in CJ Verdell, and they're finally getting healthy. So I think if I'm a fan of Oregon, I want my guys to continue to get healthy, to get their sleep, to take care of their bodies. And then I really believe in the culture at Oregon. You know, we've been around Coach Cristobal in that program for a long time now, since he even came on as an offensive line coach, then took over. This team, they always talk about it, Ash. They're going to tell the truth. They're going to meet it right in the face, and they're not going to mince words. And this team now they know the stage, and they know that they put the gas on to end games like they did against Arizona. They know that they made big stops to win close games, tight ones that we've seen throughout the season, and they also dominated a Colorado team. You know, if you look at the game they played a week ago, so I expect them to come out this weekend and in subsequent weeks with a great focus. Now, it won't be easy. They got UW in a rivalry game. So everybody out there that's mad that Oregon's number 4, they're playing a team that they always battle. It's going to be a tight game. And then we'll see as their schedule continues. You saw the Utah game, obviously, that you referenced. They have to play the rivalry game against Oregon State. So there's no layups for them. But I believe that this team knows what's at stake, and I expect them to be fully focused. And I think they'll be favored in every game, and I wouldn't be shocked if they won out.
We should mention when a Pac-12 team has been in the top 5 in the very first CFP poll, they have made it to the playoff both times, Oregon in 2014 and Washington in 2016. So we'll see what happens. What we do know is that we have 4 more glorious, glorious Saturdays of regular season football, and buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride. It always is. 38 teams, I think it is, who have lost a game when they've been ranked this year. So,
yeah. And how about that? I didn't even mention Washington State. Competing for the North now. They got to play the Ducks. So Oregon's got a bullseye, but they are laser focused. They know who they have to play because they're all legit teams that are going to be playing for something every week as well.